Welcome back to the AI Arena tutorial series. Today we're going to be going over settings, and we're going to start it off with the input settings over here. Now, while in any game mode, you can access this in the top right corner with this gear icon, and you should get this pop up. And don't worry, it'll pause the game. As you can see, the timer is paused at the top over here. Now, the first one I'll show you is the keyboard settings, but the functionality is the exact same for the controller. Now we have a keyboard over here, and then we have the main actions at the bottom. And what you need to do is actually drag an action that you want to change over the specific key you want to apply it to. So for example, you see that down is now applied to the S key. You can also see it at the bottom over here. If you want to drag it to apply it, for example, to the X key, you would drag it right over here and let it go. And now it's applied to here. Now, it doesn't automatically get saved. You actually have to click Save Presets over here. And if at any point you've messed up your configuration and you just want to reset it back to the default, you can always just press Reset Presets over here and it'll reset them. And again, if I click on this gear icon in the top left corner, you'll see that it did in fact get reset to S being down. Now it's the exact same thing for the controller. You have your inputs down here that you can change, and you just drag it over a specific button. So for example, you see over here that the attack is the A button. It's over here. You can assign it, for example, to the Y button, like that. And now it's assigned to the Y button. If you want to save this, you just click Save Presets. Now you'll see that there's less options compared to the keyboard, and it's because the keyboard also had all of the direction actions over at the bottom as well. But we don't do that for the controller because we want to leave it as default that you can use either the analog stick or the D-pad to control the movement. So that's the input settings, but there's a lot more settings that we have access to in the main area. So let's head on over there. In any of the main areas in AI Arena, you will see in the top right corner, there's a gear icon. You can click on that and get access to the main settings of the game. I'll go tab by tab, but we'll start off at the general tab. Right now we only have one thing in here, but in the future we plan on adding more things to the general tab. For now, the only thing that you can change is your username. By default, it comes with your address, but let's say I wanted to change it to Guppy. I would type it in and then click save, and then there, it's actually saved. And so if you refresh the page and come back, this will be your new username. And this will appear when you do ranked battle against other fighters. Let's go over to the display, because this is where I think some people will come to in order to optimize performance. Now, we have a bunch of things preset already that we think will give you a great experience to play the game. However, not everyone has the exact same hardware. And so if you have hardware that perhaps makes it a bit tougher to run, we have a bunch of settings that you can toggle to make the game actually run faster. Of course, it's at the cost of some rendering quality, but ultimately gameplay is the most important. So I'll kind of walk through these at a high level and show you guys kind of like what are the most important ones. So these ones I would try and take off last, right? Because this does really enhance the experience. These are the particle effects when you get knocked back and the VFX, so the visual effects. When you hit, when you land, all that stuff. So I would try and save these, but if you really need to save on compute, you can always turn these off. But I'll keep them on for now. Some other things that you can do is you can actually make the shader quality low, right? This will definitely help with compute. We have a bunch of backgrounds that are really intricate and have a lot of layers. And so by default, we have it turned on because we want you to experience the full backgrounds. However, this does actually cost a lot on the GPU. And so if you notice that there's frame drops when you're playing the game, you can always turn this off, and this should allow your game to run at a much faster pace. Similarly, you can always toggle off the training outline. Now, if you'll notice in the data collection video that we showed, the fighter had a red and blue outline around it when you were collecting data. In order to do this, it does come at the cost of some additional compute. So if you want to save on compute during the training session, you can always turn this off as well. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that help make the scene prettier that you can turn off, like anti-aliasing. You can do a custom pixel ratio, and you can dial this down to 1. And so with these settings, you should get a pretty fast game. And of course, if you turn these off as well, you get a really, really fast game. But for those that have a bit faster computers, you can basically turn these on, turn it to high, and turn these on, and you should get a pretty beautiful result, as well as something that runs at least 60 FPS. However, if you start noticing that you're playing at less than 60 FPS, feel free to start reverting some of these like I just showed you. And then of course, if you want to save it, then you could just click save here. Note that if you don't save it and you just exit out of here, nothing that you do here will be saved. And finally, we can go over to the sound settings over here. We have three main sound settings. We have the master volume, which is kind of the overall volume. We have the sound effects, and then we have the music volume. And so we separate the sound effects and music volume in case you, for example, don't want to listen to the music. I only put it at 0 because I was specifically working on sound effects, but usually I'd bump it up because I love the music in the game. And similarly, like you can customize this as you will. If you prefer listening to music and just want some sound effects kind of like there but not too in your face, then you can turn this down. If at any point you want to have other background music, maybe you want to turn this down without having to alter these, and then when you want to fully commit to listening to the game, you dial this right back up to 1. And then of course click save when you're done. And that's pretty much it. Those are the main settings for AI Arena. Hope you can customize it to your liking. And again, we'll see you in the arena.